Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Gotham Rogues. In this video we take a look at the Batman 66 episode, Fine-Feathered Finks, the Penguin's Jinx. This two-parter, which served as the introduction of the Penguin on the show, was directed by Robert Butler and written by Lorenzo Semple Jr. In the episode, weird umbrella incidents occur all across Gotham City, such as free umbrellas being handed out to patrons in a jewelry store, which then run haywire and fire off firecrackers. And later a giant-sized umbrella lands in the middle of a Gotham street. All of these events clearly point to some foul master scheme being perpetrated by that pompous arch-criminal himself, the Penguin. However, not so, as the Penguin has seemingly reformed and opened up a legit umbrella shop. Naturally, something is afoot, and the dynamic duo try to wrap their heads around the mystery and discover what the true plot of the Penguin is. If only they knew that they were playing right into the arch-villain's hands, as this is exactly what he wants. Penguin has gotten the idea to let Batman himself unintentionally plan the Rogue's next caper, and as the crime fighters discuss various potential scores their enemy could be hatching, Penguin listens on with a bugged umbrella. Whatever heist the heroes conclude on, the Penguin will choose as his next crime, and he'll be plenty ready for the dynamic duo. So this two-parter is actually a pretty faithful adaptation of Partners in Plunder, a story from Batman 169, published a couple of years before this show. There are some differences, but overall it stays very true to the comic, much more so than the last episode we had a look at, which really just took some bits from a Riddler comic. I really appreciate this, as Partners in Plunder is actually my favorite pre-crisis Penguin story, and one of my favorite Silver Age Batman stories. It also has one of my favorite Penguin covers, but that's besides the point. So the previous two episodes, the first of the show, featured a pretty basic Riddler plot. It was good, nothing wrong with it at all, but it was pretty basic, nothing special. That episode, or episodes, got its strength from the performances, a great characterization of Riddler, and absolutely hilarious and zany moments. This one, however, has a far more interesting story because of the unique premise. Penguin letting Batman unknowingly plan his caper. That's pretty damn original, and really stands out among other basic Batman versus a bad guy stories of the time, which is partly why I like the comic so much. Among the differences is that in the comic, Penguin lets Batman plan his scheme simply because he can't come up with one himself. He's suffering through a writer's block of sorts, and I think that's a really fun part of the story. In these episodes, however, they never suggest Penguin is out of ideas, and we're really not given a reason why he's doing this, at least none that's said out loud. It seems pretty obvious though that old Pengy is so arrogant and thinks he's so superior to the Cape Crusader that this scheme of his is a way to rub it in Batman's face. Penguin is, in his own eyes, such a brilliant criminal mastermind that he can trick his enemy, the lawman, into plotting his crime. This is what I get out of it anyway. I think I prefer the comic version a bit more though. One thing he does in the comic, which he does not do here, is put his monocle on the wrong eye, simply to confuse Batman and Robin, making them believe it's an intricate hint to his master's scheme. And the funny part is, they actually buy into it and ponder the mystery behind the wrongly placed monocle. That's a hilarious bit in the comic, and it's a shame he didn't do that in these episodes. The crime that the dynamic duo eventually come up with here is that Pengy is planning to kidnap movie star Don Robbins, which is different from Partners in Plunder. However, before they reach this conclusion, Batman suggests another caper which the heroes quickly reject due to it being impossible to pull off, namely to steal a jeweled meteorite. This is actually the plan used in the comic, and the meteorite is the item which Penguin is holding on the cover. I don't mind at all that they went with another heist for this show. In fact, it's good that they changed things up a bit. But what I really appreciate is that they still made this nod to the source material, which they didn't even really need to do, yet still did. Overall, I would say this episode feels more like an actual Batman comic from that era, which the previous episode didn't necessarily do. It is still a bit goofier and zanier than even Silver Age Bat comics were, but that's the whole deal with this show. As for the characterization of old Pengy himself, I'd say it's pretty damn spot on classic pre-crisis Pengy. He's an eccentric, arrogant master criminal who loves jousting with Batman. That's his main motivation here, humiliating the Cape Crusader and not the actual score itself. It's more the thrill of the score and the satisfaction after its success. He's also got all the typical Penguin tropes from the comics, the bird theme, the gimmick umbrellas. He looks exactly like in the comics too, even down to the purple bow tie and top hat, as opposed to black ones. Back in those days, Oswald also had a purple color scheme. All in all, I guess this would be the most comic-accurate portrayal of the character in live action. I mean, Batman Returns did something completely unique, and Gotham's Penguin is pretty different too, even though it does take a lot of inspiration from the modern mob boss depiction of Cobblepot. By the way, yeah, he's never named Oswald Cobblepot in this episode, just like Riddler wasn't named Edward Nygma in the previous one. Burgess Meredith does a fantastic job in the role, and he really feels like a pre-crisis Penguin come to life. I wouldn't necessarily say the same for Gorshin's Riddler, as he kinda did his own thing, but Burgess' Pengy is as if the Penguin leaped off the page of a 60s Batman comic and became flesh and blood. They really did some great casting choices for the rogues on this show, and I also very much appreciate that the actors didn't just ape each other's performances, because many years later in the Joel Schumacher movies, they kinda did just that. Here, there's a great distinction between Penguin and Riddler's personalities. Gorshin did his thing with the hysterical laughs, and then suddenly turning all ice cold and sinister, kinda like a split personality. While Meredith's Pengy is really cool and level-headed. He seems so pleased with himself too, constantly having a smirk on his face. So yeah, very different portrayals, unlike say the Batman Forever rogues, who had identical personalities. In conclusion, this is a pretty great episode, and I actually think I prefer it to the pilot. Now, the pilot was definitely funnier, but this one was more interesting, and it obviously helps a lot that it's based on one of my favorite Penguin stories. If you haven't checked out Partners in Plunder yet, I highly suggest you do, that is if you like reading old Silver Age comics. Next up, we'll be taking a look at the Joker's debut. The Joker is wild, Batman is riled, so stay tuned for that. And as always, remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.